Shalom, Makiam, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say, call hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Kodash. Send double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Send much peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word, sincerity, and truth. The apostles, with the brother Ariala. And this is just a quick Algo update. What I want to talk about is the coming in 2013, the implications for the rise in the Fed interest rates, and how Esau basically is digging a pit for themselves, because as they raise these interest rates, it's going to force businesses out of the market. It's going to force them to go into bankruptcy or to have layoffs, which they really want that situation to go down so that they can bring on that MOTB. And so people are going to be begging for stimulus. People are going to be begging for help as unemployment increases, as food prices continue to increase, and as resources become more scarce because of all those reasons. People are going to need help. And so they think that they're contriving this MOTB systems craftily, but most likely it's just going to create absolute chaos. So no further ado, I'm going to play some clips, read some scriptures. And actually, I'll open up with this first scripture. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 4 says, "And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." And so this is what you see when you start to see an economy turn down, man. When you start to see people get strained out, we're going to see that grinding be brought low all across the West, America, and all across the UN, bulk of the European nations, the EU is what I meant to say. We're going to see the grind be brought low in the so-called developed countries. And this is when things are going to really reach fever pitch. Okay, let me play this real quick.
A brace for a recession in 2023 as job losses top 2 million, Citi says. This is a Fox Business story. The U.S. will likely tumble into a mild recession next year and sees unemployment top 5%, according to a new report from Citi Global Wealth Investments. The group said in its latest Outlook report published this week that the economy could lose an estimated 2 million jobs in 2023 as the jobless rate climbs to 5.25%. We believe that the Fed rate hikes and shrinking bond portfolio have been stringent enough to cause an economic contraction within 2023.
So what happens when the Fed raises rates? It makes it harder for these companies to get access to cash. It strains things out. All right, getting access to cash becomes more difficult, more expensive. Your credit lines have to be more secure. It's harder to qualify. And when you don't have access to that, then a lot of these businesses, because they're just living off pure debt, once they lose that access to that debt, they pretty much go under. All right. The first thing you do is you remove any extra weight, and usually that's employees.
And if the Fed does not pause rate hikes until it sees contraction, a deeper recession may ensue. The Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates at the most aggressive pace since 1980s in a bid to fight inflation. So this is coming. Unemployment is coming next. Even Jerome Powell yesterday, when he was giving a speech, I don't know if you guys watched his speech or not, he was even talking about how they're expecting to see unemployment crack 4.6% next year. At the Goldman Sachs event, when I asked David Solomon, their number they're looking at is 4.3, 4.4. I think it's going to be about 5%. I think it's going to be about 5% in 2023.
Meaning if you like your job and you're doing good at your job and you want to keep your job,
do better.
Step up.
Yes, step it up.
It's crazy because I've been talking to brothers about this situation, and I've been telling brothers, hey, we're not in the time for switching a whole bunch of jobs. You're in the time for kind of hunkering down and just chilling and just doing the work. Just focus on doing the work. You got your gig, whatever. If you have a gig that's pretty cool, or brothers, a lot of brothers have spent the last couple of years going independent, which was a good idea. But I was also telling brothers, a lot of these app-based jobs are gonna become the new the latest Walmart jobs, basically. You know what I mean? Because people are going to be flooding app-based jobs, so your ability to make a buck is going to decrease because there's going to be more competition. You know, so just kind of like how the common Walmart job or a fast food job, you know, it's just like a basic entry level job. You know what I mean? Keep some money in your pocket. A lot of these app-based jobs are going to become kind of similar to that. And you know, but it's all good. You know, you're an independent contractor, so to speak. You just lock into the app and be a contractor with that app and move forward. But if you do have a traditional kind of job, maybe like an office job or something like that, man, you know, right now is the time to kind of just like, because these companies are going to be going through a lot of shit. So if you do work for a big corporation, insurance company, a firm, or whatever like that, you want to just be the guy that's reliable. You know what I mean? Make your money, you know, handle your business and get up out of there. You know, and that's basically how brothers are overall, anyway. So usually when one of the brothers have a job, they're usually one of the top guys there just because of the mindset that is established in this truth. It just translates to just being on point. So when bros enter the job force, they tend to just, you know, be the person that the employer's like, man, I know I can trust this guy because he's consistent. You know what I'm saying? And so we live in a time of inconsistent people. So you stand out when you just show basic consistencies in your behavior and mindset. And so, you know, as things ramp up, which is already ramping up, a lot of brothers have been putting news clips into the chat about layoffs and stuff like that. You know, one of the brothers had posted this about Walmart. Walmart closes 160 stores in 27 states across the U.S., warns of higher prices, more closures due to increased shoplifting, but really it has nothing to do with shoplifting. It's just that Walmart as a corporation can't afford to have those stores there. All right. They just can't. They can blame shoplifting, but shoplifting is marginal. There's not that much shoplifting going on. You know, really it's just you guys are, it's too many of y'all. Okay. We want to save that money. And so there's, you know, tons and tons and tons more examples of this going on, but it's just an example of the vengeance failing, you know. And Isaiah 32:9 says, rise up, you women that are at ease, hear my voice, ye careless daughters, give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women, for the vengeance shall fail, the gathering shall not come. All right. This is what's going to be happening, man. It's going to be very, very, very bad out here, you know, and it's going to affect, you know, the scriptures highlight women that are at ease. Like basically, we live in a developed society where women are okay. They frolic about, but when things get strained out, the man is the one that's a hunter, and a woman is like waiting to gather. But we're going to be in a time of hunting out here. You know, it says, tremble ye women that are at ease, be troubled ye careless ones, strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. It's going to come to a point to where you're not going to just be able to go to the grocery store like that, you know. And if you do go to the grocery store, the amount of money that you have to even buy something is going to be minimal compared to how much money you actually need. It's going to be very high inflation, even though they've been raising these interest rates. Inflation has not stopped. It's continuing to go up. Everybody has noticed how the price of gas is just out of this world. I mean, the price for food is getting out of control, and that's not even anything compared to what's about to happen, man. Shalom, fear Yahweh, shalom. You know, it's going to get much, much, much worse out here, man. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Okay, I'm gonna play this video right here. Let's see.
Even leads you to believe that explains to you why the Federal Reserve is not going to do this pivot that a lot of people are anticipating. Like a lot of people say, once the housing market crash, stock market crash, all this other stuff. No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. What it's going to end up doing with is unemployment. And what's really odd to think about is that the Federal Reserve is mandated to do two things: low and stable prices of 2% inflation and full employment, whatever that means. So these two things are mandated by the Federal Reserve. And when you read this speech, it's very interesting to think about their mandate and what it is that they're doing to try and fix the inflationary scenario, right? Because here's the problem, right? Inflation is high and it needs to come down. Now, let me see here. I wrote down a bunch of stuff and I have terrible handwriting, so I don't want to hear. Raising interest rates will bring down demand in line with the supply. Now, this is something that a lot of people were looking at the Federal Reserve saying they were the reasons why all this took place, why all this inflation is happening. But what we had was a supply chain breakdown. At the same time, we had a stimulus package come out that gave a bunch of demand to the economy. So now, as that stimulus package is running out and the supply or the reopening of the economy is bringing supply back in, there's still a major imbalance taking place here where you have more demand than supply. And they go on to talk about this. Now,
so people got all this, still have all this free money that was given to them that increases demand. And as supply is strained, that makes prices go up, But now, in order to reverse this, they've increased interest rates. It's going to decrease the demand because people are going to be out of jobs, so they're going to be out of money. So you can't demand for something when you ain't got no bread, when you ain't got no money, right? And so that's supposed to bring down inflation, right? So they hyperinflated the economy by just giving people stimulus, right? The supply chain got wrecked, so you don't have a supply. So a small amount of supply. So you got a small amount of product, but you got a whole bunch of people with money that want to buy stuff. So you have ridiculous amounts of demand with very little product. What does that do? That makes prices hyperinflate. In order to curb this, they rapidly increased interest rates, meaning making that cash, that money that people have in their hands, now that money is harder to get. So it's supposed to decrease demand. And then they're supposed to be opening the economy back up, which increases supply. It's supposed to, but there's still such a big of an imbalance that inflation is still going up. Inflation is still going up. That's what he's saying right here. Man, I was looking for that scripture, the water. Fear Yahweh put second Ezra 6:22, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. Wow. $10 to $12 carton of eggs in New York. Showing you, bro. And we was talking about this. I believe it was last night. We was talking about this out there on the highways and byways. How don't be surprised when you start to see eggs, even more bread. Bread is gonna be at that cost. Shalom, Elder Remnant Save. Shalom. So don't be surprised, man.
Now, they're going to look to measures or look to the macroeconomic conditions that they think will be needed to bring inflation down to a 2% inflation over time. And that's something important to think about, is that he says that repeatedly over time, 2% inflation over time. They're not going to straight up say it, that it's a 2% average inflation rate that they're looking for, because up until just recently, I don't know what month it was, back when they changed their inflation target from a 2% target to a 2% inflation rate over time. And they don't exactly explain what that inflation rate over time is. So it really becomes arbitrary to the Federal Reserve on when they feel that they have achieved their 2% inflation over time rate, whatever that is. Okay. So that part is really difficult to try and understand into your strategy, but as we go, you'll kind of hear it a little bit more, and you'll probably start realizing what it is that they're shooting for. All right. We need to raise rates to a level that is sufficiently restrictive to return to the 2%. And that's, again, something to think about. They have to, they sufficiently restrictive. And they don't know exactly what that is. And so that's where, like, this whole idea that the Federal Reserve is going to pivot, they're not, right? They know that there is no way that they can tell what it is or what position they need to be in, but that there's a lag taking place from the time that they lift interest rates to the time it actually impacts the economy. So that's important to also take into the strategy, that they're going for a 2% average inflation rate, and that there's a lag inside of the time that they lift interest rates to the time it actually impacts the economy.
All right. So what this dude is explaining is like,
all right, we are trying
each time that they raise interest rate, they have to wait to see how it affects the economy before they can make a decision. So there's a lag, which is basically going to lead them to raise interest rates ridiculously high before they even notice any major changes. Okay. So I was listening to somebody talking, saying back in the 70s, they had to raise the interest rates up to like almost 17, 18% before they can get it back down. Now, you do that with today's currency, which is worth pretty much nothing, you're going to see prices of things be so high that, you know, what you see on those futuristic movies is a joke, but it's going to work against them as they go to implement this plan, because they want this to happen. That's why we say we don't call it an economic collapse. It's really a controlled demolition that the Most High has put it into the mind of this man to do, to destroy himself. He literally is destroying himself, right? Proverbs 26:27, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. All right. This is what's happening, man. This is what's happening, is that they've created these market conditions to strain people out. So out of those market conditions, people beg for a solution. Order ab chaos. They knew what they was doing when they did those lockdowns. They knew what they was doing when they shut down those manufacturers and docks and didn't let product move across the world freely. They knew how much of it that was going to cause inflation. At the same time, just handing out stimulus, they knew they had to justify themselves to go into this time of what's called austerity, which the scriptures talk about that. Scriptures talk about that austerity in the book of Revelation, that those hard times. All right, clamping everything down. Okay, clamping everything down hard. Psalms 10:1 says, why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and the blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. Right? The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God, no, not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. You see? But the Most High is going to catch him up in those same evil devices that they've set forth, man, because they're doing this to get people to take the MOTB, the C-hip. They're doing this to create the market conditions to get everybody protesting, mad, upset, fighting. You can't eat. You don't know what's going on. We need a solution. The world is on the brink. We need something. It's just gradualism towards the mark. It's gradualism towards the mark. Okay? That's right. That's right. You skip down to verse 13, 14. I can do that. Yeah. It says, Psalms 10:12, arise, O Lord, O power, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn the Most High? He saith in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, and to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break down the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. And that's what we're going to see. The snare is being laid, but it's very crafty. Very crafty. Psalm 7:14, behold, he travaileth with iniquity. He hath conceived mischief and brought forth falsehood. His mischief shall return upon his own head. His violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate, his own crown, his own head. I will praise the Lord according to his righteousness, and will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. All right? All these things are going to begin to manifest themselves as this economy continuously crumbles piece by piece by piece. We're going to listen to just a little bit more of this, and then we're going to move on to the next piece.
We are tightening the stance of policy in order to slow growth in aggregate demand. Now, that's, again, important to think about, right? Because the supply and demand issue is out of balance. Even though the reopening of the economy and the stimulus has run out, the demand is still higher than the supply. They're trying to kill this demand part of things because they know they're not getting help from the supply. That's it. There's no more help. Or less help, I guess is what I should say. I shouldn't say there's no Let's see here. Restoring that balance is likely to require a sustained period of below trend growth. Now, that is also something for people to think about. It's going to be required that we have a sustained period of below trend growth. Now, everybody is anticipating, it's just like, oh, hey, man, once the Federal Reserve, pivots, we're going to be game on again. No, the Federal Reserve is saying it's going to be a sustained period of below trend growth. Get ready for it.
Right. It's going to be a sustained period of people being broke, then a hoe, hurt. They want pain to be in the market. The market is going to be full of pain. People who are unemployed, who are running out of benefits, who are just scraping by, people who are making $80,000, $90,000 a year, now having to Uber. But you're 42 with 3 kids. Okay? Both your parents just got laid off from their corporate jobs. All right? You're 36, having to move back in with your parents. But you got a whole family. There's going to be increased pain in developed nations that's going to cause people to be angry, people to want to protest, people going to want solutions. They're going to be upset. All right? These decadent countries, people are used to doing what they want. All right? But we're gonna come to a time where a cup of coffee is $8, $10, $15. No, you used to go to get all of this on the menu. No, the menu only got few selections. They cut all the extra stuff because they can't afford it. We are not far away from this. We are extremely close. All right.
All right. Slowing growth from several factors. They talk about the slowing growth right now that we are experiencing. They come from several factors. One of them is the waning effects of the reopening. Like I said, if you look back like 6, 7, 8 months ago, they were talking about how they were going to get this help from the reopening of the economy. And it's simply just income. You can see it by right now that even by the trucking issue, the rail issue, the port issues over on the East Coast, all this stuff is starting to take place where there's still the reopening of the economy.
Oh, yeah. By the way, this is the uneducated economist. It's got a good page. I know a lot of brothers do know about him, but he's pretty consistent. You know what I'm saying? Kind of a chill dude. He tries his best to keep things simple. You know what I'm saying? But he's got a good page to go and get kind of like up-to-date current economic mindset. Okay? But I think that's all I wanted to play on this one. I'm going to skip ahead. I want to read this in Revelation, the 6th chapter, about the third seal. In the 5th verse, it says, "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast saying, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand." And this pair of balances, it represents like being an employee, like being a slave, being a worker, being just a lowly grunt slave in a system, but also represents kind of like judgment, because when you have balances, it represents it. If it's too far this way or too far that way, what happens when a company's balance sheet is off? They go bankrupt, and this place is spiritually bankrupt. Its balance sheet is off, man. Everything that it's completely off, man. So the balance also represents impending judgment, man. Right? Let me see. Let me get this word. Apostles have gone into this breakdown many times, man.
Strong's G 2218 Zugos.
All right, zygos or zugos. It says from the root zugumi. It says to join, especially by a yoke. By a yoke. You see that? A yoke that is put on draught cattle, metaphorically used for any burden or bondage as that of slavery, right? And that's we live in a slave state. When you have this predatory capitalistic system, it's predatorily capitalistic. It needs worker drones to keep it going. It needs a battery pack. What's the battery pack? The main battery pack is human resource, where you're literally driven to the ground into the dirt by you wake up. You if your gut is still pretty healthy, you might take a shit. You pour up some cheap coffee. You get into traffic. You get stressed out. You get to work. You work. They give you a 30-minute break. They give you a 10-minute break and maybe a 30-minute break. You get off when the sun's getting ready to go down. All right. You get home. You shit. You eat. You argue with your woman. Watch TV, and then you get up the next day. You do it over again for 50 something years. And you have little whatever in between you might have. They were like, hey, we'll let you go see the beach real quick, but then you need to make sure you get back to work as quickly as possible. You're a slave in this system, point blank period. You're permitted to do this or allowed to do that every now and then, but for the most part you have to do this. You're a slave. All right. It says of troublesome laws imposed on one, especially of the Mosaic law. This is talking about the yoke or the burden of the law. Hence, the name is so transferred to the commands of Hamashiach as to contrast them with the commands of the Pharisees, which were a vertical yoke. Yet even Hamashiach's commands must be submitted to, though easier to be kept. Right? Though simpler to be kept, not necessarily easier. A balance. A pair of scales. Okay, so this is a place where we're seeing this third seal, right? And so as we continue to read, all right, it says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And so right now, victuals are such good cheap in the earth. But as inflation continues, as job layoffs continue, right? The prices of goods and services is going to go up, but your access to cash flow is going to go down. So people still really think that they're in good case, but surely things are going to be getting worse and worse and worse. But what hurt not the oil and the wine? There's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding still going to be going out. This word is likened unto anointing or oil. All right. It's likened unto wine or spirits. All right. So that's what's going out. But I want to stick to the point of how there's impending famine and strain being brewed up in the developed nations, right? In the West. Second Ezra chapter 16, verse I guess I started 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear. That's how it goes, man. The beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, and the beginnings of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. All right, to correct things. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. People are just going to continue to live their life. We're in the midst of literally watching because people really don't understand what's happening. The Fed has steadily increased rates. It has not slowed down inflation at all. It hasn't stemmed inflation. Record unemployment is coming. 2023 it's going to be off the chain. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's extremely early in 2023. I'm talking about before winter's over, we're starting to really see this thing break companies down, because as the numbers come in from the fourth quarter and they see their holiday numbers were trash because people just did not have the cash and they were banking on that money that they didn't get, we're going to see. Verse 21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. That's what's increasing on the earth. Sword, famine, and great confusion. It's literally happening right in front of us. Okay? Wars and rumors of wars, food crisis, the access to food, the actual logistics industry, trucking and the railroad industry, all right? The boating industry all across the world. Great confusion, policy confusion. People are starting to protest in these little smaller nations. We're seeing it. They dig the pit and they're about to fall in the same pit or the snare that they think they're setting a trap for the people, but they actually are setting a trap for themselves. And it's setting the stage. While all of this is happening, they're already indoctrinating people with the mindset of like Neuralink. All right, get your Neuralink, get your brain chip. All right, get this, get that. They're conditioning the people to come into the mindset of, hey, this digital system is the way to solve problems. Okay. Fear Yahweh put in Isaiah 19:15, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. Right? So as these big time corporations look at their Q4 numbers and they starting to make projections out for the next 12 to 24 months, and they're sitting and they're asking their people, okay, what should we do? They're going to be looking at the balance sheet saying, yo, we need to cut down this labor expense. Over the next 2 years, we can save $2.4 million if we lay off 20,000 people. Okay, what else can we do? Okay, you want to know, as we looked at our numbers, the 80% of our profits are coming from this sector and this sector. This sector over here is only doing 2.3%, and it's flat. It's been flat for the last 3 years. Well, then let's eliminate that department. Well, Jim Bob has been running that department for 30 years. He's got his pension coming. Well, we got to do what we got to do. Bye, Jim Bob. All right, and they sent Jim Bob down to tell him that him and his team, sorry, man, we appreciate your service, but we're going to have to let you go. This is horse shit, man. I worked my ass off of your company, blah, blah, blah. That's what's going to be happening, man. That's what's going to be happening. Okay? And it's going to be more and more strain. And meanwhile, they're going to be rolling stuff out for you. All right, so this played like a couple weeks ago. I remember saving this clip because I wanted to incorporate it into a future Algo. And a lot of these guys that do alternative news and stuff like that, they watch our videos. They do, they watch it. Okay, but it's if you can't see what the mark of the beast is at this point, you really have to, like, your comment, your level of just basic sense needs to be questioned. Now, I'll say this. If you can't acknowledge that what we're saying makes sense and it's not ridiculous, then you're just a liar and a jerk at this point. All right? You can't see that they're completely compelled to put you into this all digital system where they want to put it inside of you and make sure that they can monitor it. And they're literally just doing commercials on it. I was at the office a week ago, and I was watching Dr. Phil. I wasn't watching Dr. Phil. They had it on the TV while I was working on people. And the whole episode was just about chipping people. Watch. Let me see. Somebody got to have Dr. Phil microchips. Chip. Look at it. Boom. This is very recent, unless it was a rerun. Yeah, 4 days ago. Look at that. Look at that. They're all about it. And this dude right here is supposed to be a scientist. He's telling you how to about health and everything like that.
Surgically implanting computers into humans is dangerous. Just how dangerous, we don't know yet, because that's how they release technology. As long as it doesn't kill you instantly or almost instantly, it's deemed safe for sale. And then it's 5, 10, 20 years later, we learn that it causes cancer, autism, birth defects, and more. But by that point, we've become so dependent on the technology, we choose to live with the disease. But these exposures, these are crazy. We're talking about literally inside the body, point blank range with zero distance, day in, day out for years on end. What impact will that have? We don't know, but I can tell you it won't be good.
We're back talking about technology under our skin. And my next guest, who you just saw, says the electromagnetic frequency in technology is bad for your health. So much so that he doesn't have a microwave. So joining us on...
What's bad for our health is Edomites ruling. Edomites ruling society is detrimental for all organic life. And they've proven it time and time again. They are the border of wickedness that the scriptures is talking about. These Edomites that are ruling have to be taken out of rulership. Right? It says bro said Khan's been getting slow in my plantation. I see it come. What do you mean? What do you mean by it getting slow? Like just no work coming in and out? Because bros are starting to say that about the trucking industry. Like bros are saying that they're having their loads are getting lighter, further away. All this stuff is happening.
Stage is R, who believes human microchipping is dangerous and technology needs to be safer to use. You said we don't know what the effects are, but we know they're not good. How do you know they're not good?
Well, we now know, we have decades of science now on the health effects of EMF radiation. We're talking about thousands of studies at this point, high quality peer-reviewed science that links these exposures to numerous negative health outcomes ranging.
I think we can just nip this all in the bud right now because these devices are passive. That means when they're not in the seconds of exposure of a very low frequency, low power field, they're dead. They're inert. They have no energy whatsoever.
So what does having that chip in your body for 20 years do on average to a population of 20,000 people?
Nothing. We know we've used this exact material since the 70s. There's been almost zero evidence of any kind of irritation. In fact, this material...
My understanding is that there's multiple studies dating from the 90s and the early 2000s demonstrating increased rates of tumor growth.
No, those are incorrect.
And what studies are you referring to?
I'm talking about, well, I think...
So there are 3 studies that were referenced, but these are all studies that were tumor studies in animals either genetically engineered to get tumors in order to study the tumors or chemically induced tumors. The outcomes of the studies were noted that, oh, you know what, around the implants in these animals we're using to ID them, there were a tumor, but alongside 50 other tumors in these bodies. And it wasn't all, it was about 8% of those animals. So it was just a note in the study. But there are people that want to benefit off of this, people that write certain kind of books and certain kind of scare tactics. And they use these studies to say, look, it's bad, and this is all coming for you, and we want to...
This is what you're going to see, bro. They're going to be having nerds, geeks like this, that just sit up and watch porn and get yelled at by some corporate CEO about what to do in the office, come tell you how you should take care of your health, man. These guys right here is who Elon Musk whips every day down in the bunker of his corporate buildings to get the product out. And he puts them up here to tell you how to live your life, and they're lying. And Esau can lie easily. He lies. He don't have any problems with lying. It's just business. These are the people. But like you see, this is like 4 days ago on Dr. Phil, and it's just like, yeah, I'm getting chipped. Had a whole episode on it. All right.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phil. people worldwide have already got chipped, and the trend seems to be growing.
You can download and install application right into your body to give your appendages abilities.
But people are saying we crazy. No, we're just ahead of you.
We're never meant to.
Whenever I'm doing my hair and I drop bobby pins on the floor, it's really handy.
All the doors in my life just open at my command.
What about the concerns? We don't know what the effects are. We know they're not good. Well, technology is constantly evolving, and every day there seems to be something new and innovative to keep up with. Companies can even scan your face or listen to your voice for identity verification. Nowadays, you don't even need these or these. It seems like everything you need is stored right here, of course, right? You all know that. I even used my e-wallet the other day. Not sure I did it right, but they let me go. But let's take it a step further. What if you could unlock your car, open your door, or place a call with just this? And how would you do that? Well, you would put it here in your arm. Yes, today we're talking all about human microchipping, surgically adding implants underneath your own skin to store and access information, open and close doors, pay for groceries, unlock safes, and other useful tasks. Now, you may have heard about microchipping animals, right? But 50,000 people worldwide now have been chipped in recent years, and the trend seems to be growing. But my first guest, and
hey man, and I guarantee it's more than 50,000. They already have this push forward, and we already know, because the scriptures tell you, Scriptures tell you, Revelation chapter 13. We already know what's up, Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads. And they're pushing the whole concept of the Neuralink brain chipping. They're pushing this concept of being able to link everything together so you can buy or sell. Verse 17, that no man might buy or sell save he that have the mark of the name of the beast and the number of his name. Look, if you can't at least admit that what we're saying kind of makes sense, then you're just being a demon.
All the way over. Those numbers have to make it all the way over. Now that's what they do, but now they're going to take a digital coin, not a digital dollar, a digital coin, and they're going to buy and sell and trade, and those numbers have to go all the way over to another place and finish the transaction.
That's a completely different thing.
Completely.
Not related at all.
Okay.
If you can't tell, they're being sarcastic because the current systems do that.
How are you going to do this? You're going to take a whole system that is based on a digital paper dollar. Mm-hmm. You're going to digitize that dollar, and then you're going to just move numbers to another bank. That's a dollar. That's paper. This is a coin. How are you going to do that? Completely different. So they think that as long as it passes its beta test, don't worry. They could have it. They could have it by spring.
So they're essentially taking 20th century technology and using it in the 21st century.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's bold.
But they have to have a name change for it.
You're right.
Remember, this was a Federal Reserve printed currency that had been digitized.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Federal Reserve digital currency.
Okay.
Yeah. So one starts as a digital, the other one has to be transformed digitally. So they've cut that transforming part out, and that's the part where it gets really sketchy. Okay. By the way, India just rolled out its retail pilot program for digital rupees as well. Don't worry. I think maybe we should start having the conversation, because this is coming. Maybe we should start having the conversation of, gosh, this looks like the mark of the beast. I mean, doesn't it?
But surely it's not.
Surely it's not. Of course not.
Not from the U.S. government.
No. They never do anything underhanded or evil.
Never.
Never.
Especially when Democrats are in control.
Amen to that, brother. Hey, by the way, the White House.
I mean, even the guys here, man, you know, it's just, I think for people at this point, it's so ridiculously obvious that people want it to be something more complicated, because it's like, it can't be that. It's too clear and obvious. It has to be more to it. No, it's just being revealed, bro. It's true. That's what it's talking about. Okay? All right? Now, let me read this. No, okay. I wanted to play this because my man George Gammon, he kind of goes more into at the beginning of this video, he talks about CBDCs and he breaks down how a blockchain works. For those of you who are nerdy like me, I'll watch it. But it's just technical information on how the blockchain ledger system works. And I think that kind of maybe answers your question a little bit, GMS Hawaii, because there's different ways for technical issues. It's something called administration keys and different things that they can do with oracles for hackability and stuff like that. Things that basically make it a controlled system, a controlled state, and it's not what people understand as decentralized, right? But anyway, as he gets into this, he starts to break down what he calls a dystopian nightmare of how this CBDCs can really control everything, right? So let me play this.
Is every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. So again, it begs the question, if this system already works extremely well.
So this is what Glenn Beck and the other guy were kind of making fun of, this whole idea of CBDCs. They're like, man, we already have a system that's pretty much doing this. Why are you trying to convert it over to this digitized system? Well, controlling the data is a lot easier with blockchain in a certain way.
Very few mistakes, and it's very efficient. Then why are they changing? The answer to this question is what your freedom and liberty depends on. And we're going to be exploring this throughout the rest of this video.
Right? And your freedom and liberty being taken is highlighted here in Revelation 13, the 16th verse and the 17th verse. Right? That every person that's going to come underneath the umbrella, you're not going to be able to move. Commerce is at the center point of how you live your life. Let's be real. Okay? Moving of goods and services in so many different ways is how you are able to live your life. And if you can control that, you can control the people, because you control their access to everything. Okay? It's just true. All right, let's listen to this.
Step number 2. Now let's go over the new system the Federal Reserve is testing with their central bank digital currency pilot program. And I want to make sure you're sitting down for this one, because you've definitely got to put your thinking cap on. This one is mentally, intellectually, incredibly vigorous. Are you ready? Okay. This is the old system, very antiquated and outdated. It might as well be straight from the 1700s. This is the one that we went over in step number 1, where ABC transfers $100 to XYZ Bank in the name of Mike transferring money to Joe. going through the settlement system, and then settling on the Fed's balance sheet. You all understand how that works, but here is where it gets very, very complicated. You see, we move from this old, antiquated system to the modern world with the new distributed ledger technology, or DLT, as the kids are calling it today. So what would
he explains it here in part 2. I might skip ahead, but let's see.
happen in this modern technology is ABC Bank would actually have a record of ABC transferring $100 to XYZ. And the Federal Reserve would have the exact same record or the same ledger. And believe it or not, XYZ would have the exact same thing. You see, all the parties involved in the transaction would have a record of that transaction. Now you're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute, George. And you've probably got that look on your face, like that meme with the guy from Step Brothers. Editor, make sure you throw that up. And you're saying to yourself, this new technology pretty much does the exact same thing as this old technology. Exactly. This is the point I'm trying to illustrate. You see, the benefit of DLT, or distributed ledger technology, is that it's decentralized. So one of the main benefits that you receive from this decentralization is the fact that it's completely transparent. So if Mike or Joe wanted to see what was happening with this very opaque system, they could do so easily. If Mike wanted to check out the transactions that ABC is doing, all the derivative contracts, let's say, or what they're...
So with the blockchain, you can basically see how it's anonymous because it's just a wallet number. Like if you have a digital wallet, let's say you have a Coinbase wallet, that wallet has a set of numbers that's that wallet's identity, but no one knows that wallet is necessarily you. Okay? But all the transactions that go in and out of that wallet are transparent because they have to be verified throughout the whole chain. So you can go see, okay, this came in, that came out, this came in, that came. So it's always keeping, the system is always keeping a transparent ledger of accounts. Okay, that's it, that's what it's supposed to be. It's the whole point of blockchain is it's supposed to be for the common man can, without extra interest, without being tracked and traced, have transparent, what they call trustless, meaning you're not having to rely on anybody else. The system is doing what the system is written for it to do. That was the whole point of this whole thing. But now, because all of this is contrived, all of this was created. Okay, they just gradually bringing people into the idea of it, and then they're going to create a system that you're going to come into. What's that? Micah 2. Let's pull that up real quick. Micah chapter 2. I don't know verse 10, but verse 1. Yeah. Woe to them. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds when the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And this is the whole point of something that they've created, right? That's right. There won't be any more cash loopholes. You'll be literally locked into a system, and everything you do is going to be tracked and traced. And they're going to be coupling it with your carbon footprint, and everything like that is going to be locked into your digital credits. And that's why they need this economy to be strained out. So you'll accept this new system and say, okay, well, what we want to do is, unemployment is off the roof. Inflation's crazy. We want to help you people. We're going to do another round of stimulus, but this stimulus this time is going to be tied to this and that. These are going to be the rules and regulations centered around this next stimulus. Okay? right? They devise iniquity. They in the when it's morning, when the morning is light, they practice it because there's a power there. They covet fields and they take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage, right? So this is what they're doing.
Balance sheet truly looks like, he would have access to this. But if you have this type of DLT or distributed ledger system that is closed and only accessible by the banksters and the Fed themselves, it's no different than the current.
Boom. So now all the transparency that's happening on that blockchain can only be viewed and controlled by the Fed and the regulated banks that they give the power to. Because not all the banks are there. A lot of these banks are gonna have to go. They're gonna only want a few approved banks that are gonna be able to distribute this
system, which takes us straight back to the question we asked in step number 1. If these two ways of settling a transaction have some differences, maybe, but they're almost identical, and if the net result is the exact same, then why are they changing? The answer is this is not about DLT. This is about programmable money and having total control over you and your family. Step number 3, programmable money. This is the Fed's end game. And this is what this CBDC pilot program is all about.
Revelation 13 and 16 and 17. Programmable money, bro. They want to chip you. Can't even say that, but literally on Dr. Phil. This is what they want to do, bro. This is what they want to do.
Most people realize that this move towards Fed coin, if you will, is an attack on personal freedom and liberty. From the standpoint of the government, the central planners and the authoritarians will have access to every single transaction you make. This is straight out of Orwell's 1984. But what they don't realize is their account that they have at Bank America or Wells Fargo will most likely become a liability of the Federal Reserve. So check this out. The Fed is right here at the top. And I'd like you to notice their balance sheet. Assets on the left, liabilities on the right. And they have the account, the reserve account for ABC Bank and XYZ. But now they have the account for the average Mike and the average Joe. And this is crucially important. You understand this dynamic. Now, it is true that in the future, or when this CBDC thing plays out, the banks could still hold your deposits as their liabilities. But I think those deposits, or at least the loans they make, will be backed up by the Federal Reserve. So as an example, XYZ Bank gives you a mortgage for $500,000. Then the Fed would immediately buy that mortgage so that debt would exist on the Fed's balance sheet. This is crucial because the Fed's balance sheet is infinite. And what this can lead to is lending not based on merit or your ability to pay back the loan, but lending an extension of credit and how much you're paying for the debt based on a political narrative.
Boom. So basically what he's saying, your access to get a loan should be on the merit of your ability to pay it back. But when it's all based on the rules and regulations of the Fed, because they can just create the money. Now it's a system to where we'll just give money to who we want to, and we won't give money to who we don't want to. We can turn off your chip, basically. We can lessen your credits to where you can't move. We can make it to where you're not able to move around for whatever decision. He said political.
More on that in just a moment. So now I know a lot of the pushback that you get on Twitter or maybe with your friends and family members is, oh, the banks will never ever agree to this because this takes away their deposits. This takes away their ability to lend. In other words, it takes away one of their revenue streams. First of all, I don't think the banks would lose much money if we went to a Fed coin. Why? Because right now, they're pretty much making fees on transactions. They don't hold much of the consumer debt on their balance sheet. So going back to that example of you getting a $500,000 mortgage from Wells Fargo, before the ink's dry, they've taken that debt and sold it to Fannie and Freddie. So it's off their balance sheet. And then Fannie and Freddie takes those mortgages and turns them into mortgage-backed sausages, as I call them, and just pawns them off on Wall Street. So again, the fee is made by the initiation of the mortgage. They're almost like a mortgage broker from that standpoint. But let's just assume for a moment that your dollars that you have in your bank account right now go from being a liability of your local bank to a liability of the Federal Reserve. And let's just assume that this does impact their bottom line. Who actually owns the Federal Reserve? It's the banksters themselves. So if the Fed is making the profit or the banksters are making the profit, it still goes in the same entity's back pocket at the end of the day. And to show you just how incestuous this act is, in fact, the World Economic Forum, our buddy Klaus Schwab, has backed and supported credit cards that tell you what your monthly carbon footprint has been. In other words, how much you consume, what your impact on the environment has been for the entire month. Well, when we have a central bank digital currency, what they can easily do, since they have programmable money, is they can cut you off from spending on certain items, or they can cut you off from spending altogether. Let's just assume for a moment that Mike likes to eat a steak every once in a while. Well, let's say that we're 23 days into the month and the Fed, the central planners and the authoritarians can see that Mike has exceeded his carbon allocation for meat consumption. So what they can do is they can just turn off the dollars that he has in his account at the Fed. They turn off his ability to use his hard-earned dollars to buy beef. So now he can only use his dollars to buy something that's far more friendly to the environment. Everybody's favorite dinner protein, bugs. But unfortunately, that's not where the 1984 Orwellian dystopia ends. Let's move over to the average Joe. Obviously, he is very, very upset. Why? Because he just went in to get a mortgage and he saw that his interest rate is 10% compared to the lowest interest rate available, let's say at 1%. You say, George, well, why on earth does he have such a high interest rate? Does he have a bad credit score? Oh, no, no, no. It's because the average Joe is a straight white guy. Well, who gets the 1% interest rate? Oh, well, that would be the American Indian trans chick who identifies as a furry. Now you may be saying to yourself, okay, George, well, you've taken it too far. That's ridiculous. That's never going to happen. Really, editor, let's go straight to my Twitter feed. And you can see that the Federal Reserve themselves just proudly tweeted out the fact that the Central Bank of Canada is hosting a conference on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what this means is the central banks themselves who issue this central bank digital currency will be able to control who gets credit and who doesn't.
And those people who are going to be able to get credit are going to be those who worship the image of the beast. Those who worship his image. Those who basically, as he's able to get power. You go to verse 15 in Revelation 13, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And so for those who are down underneath that spirit of Baal, Baphomet, it's pretty much the overarching ideal of the spiritual demon Satan, they're going to get access to credit. They're going to get access to be able to buy and sell and live and move and have what they consider speech in this coming society. But those who are basically uplifting Yahweh Shem Yahushua really is the ones that's going to be, ostracized and attacked. Now, other people going to suffer, yeah, but mainly they're trying to come for the elect. They're pushing this stuff. Now, that's pretty much all I wanted to go in on as far as this lesson goes. There's this article here. I believe this is an opinion piece. First, I thought it was a satire, just a political satire website. But as I looked it up, I think they really believe that they're doing genuine journalism just from their point of view. But the title says anti-chippers are the latest group of awful people we now have to worry about. as if these troubling times haven't already encumbered us with enough challenges. They're paranoid, don't believe in science. Many have white supremacist tendencies. And most importantly, they want you to know that microchip implants are super duper scary, right? These anti-chippers, and they're anti-chippers, and they've got literally dozens more brain cells than your average anti-vaxxer. So what's their deal? And so, this is a kind of the mindset of the average everyday Joe Blow. Like, people really are this stupid. We are kind of encapsulated now. We have this community of, Israel, and we pretty much, we've created this atmosphere that people can come into and truly learn the word of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. But outside of this world is a bunch of idiots. Like, seriously, a bunch of zombies that believe anything that they see on TV, that believe anything the government basically tells them. They still worship their teachers at school, teaching them lies. Their professors in college, right? We're in zombie land. We're in vampire zombie land. Truly. And right now, we're at the cusp. We're at they're really getting ready to push this, man. They're getting ready to push this onto the people. So we have to stay in the spirit. We have to stay, in faith through Yahweh Shem Yahushua, trusting his name, trusting what he told us, so that we'll be able to endure these times, man. But I don't want to keep bros for longer. I know brothers have their perspective camps. A lot of brothers have perspective camps today. I appreciate whoever was able to tune in with me. The water for those of you who posted scriptures and comments. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Call halal Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua Bahashem Rakah HaKodash. Double honors once again to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word, sincerity, and truth. Hey, shalom.